and 10% of 275 is 27.5. So I'm rounding these numbers up. Let's just say that after paying that 10% fee to cash out.
Let's assume, so it's 10%. Let's round it up to 30 gems.
Okay.
Just to make it even. From 275 minus 30, 245. 245. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm able to take $245 out. So that amount will land in my bank account. But in VeVe's bank account, because all the fees and everything, they have to use $210 to pay $245. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the VeVe Vintage Podcast. Today we will spend a lot of time talking about Omi to NFT, and this is probably our most in-depth conversation on Omi to date. We'll do a deep dive into explaining to you why the 30% App Store fee really hurts VeVe, with real examples, with numbers and everything, and how a combination of the web app and Omi to NFT can solve that. In addition, if the Ecomi team can build an appropriate Omi burning mechanism to Omi to NFT, that will benefit everybody, especially Omi holders like us. Let's get to it. We're going to have Omi to NFT at some point. And so I had some thoughts about Omi to NFT, but we're going to take it back a little bit and explain why this is very important. Because to those who are listening, this is one of the most in-depth episodes we've ever done on Omi. And we want to provide you some context on why Omi to NFT is very important, because it's much more than what it is on the surface. So right now, the business model of VeVe, we're going to talk about that, and we're going to tell you why Omi to NFT is huge for everybody, the company and Omi investors like ourselves, right? So right now, I'm going to say the business model first, and then Mr. V will chime in with some thoughts. So if I were to put 100 gems in today to buy a drops, Apple take, and I'm rounding these numbers up, Apple take $30 as the app fee, and VeVe gets $70, right? Let's just say I'm buying a very good NFT from a drop because I'm lucky, and this NFT appreciates to 300 gems, and Mr. V is interested in purchasing my NFT on the secondary market. When Mr. V loads gem to his account, he's going to load 300 gems, right? Apple or Google will take 30% of that, which will be, I think, hold on one second.
$90.
Okay. Apple will take $9. So that leaves the amount that goes into the VeVe bank account of $210. In Mr. V's account, that amount will be 300, like round complete, right? But because in the back end, Apple takes some fees, so VeVe will only really get $210. And we are making a lot of educated guesses / assumptions here, and we're rounding these numbers up. So VeVe has $210. In Mr. V's account, it shows 300 gems. Okay. Then you buy the NFT from me, right? And you buy it for 300 gems. So after the 8.5% fee, I get $275. Oh, sorry, gems, around that amount. So I get $275 from that sale. All right. And let's just say I want to cash out. And let's just say that there is no minimum threshold to cash out. If I have 275 gems, I'm able to cash out. And with that amount, I'm paying 10% to be able to take my money out to withdraw, right? And 10% of 275 is 27.5. So I'm rounding these numbers up. Let's just say that after paying that 10% fee to cash out.
Let's assume, so it's 10%. Let's round it up to 30 gems.
Okay.
Just to make it even. From 275 minus 30, 245. 245. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm able to take $245 out. So that amount will land in my bank account. But in VeVe's bank account, because all the fees and everything, they have to use $210 to pay $245. Mr. V, you have something to add to that context?
I mean, that's what, like a little over 30% that they need to cover on that one transaction. And if you think about on a large scale, things can pile up really quick. And I'm not saying that a lot of people are going to be cashing out or are cashing out. It's a large liability on their balance sheet. If you're looking at the grand scheme of things, and if things were to nosedive, it's a liability. It's not the reality or the circumstances today. However, on a month-to-month or year-to-year basis, that could really overwhelm them and anybody who starts to see the bigger picture here.
Right. So that is only for a very specific case, but it does happen from time to time, right? Like these drops, some of them are scarce or highly demanded, so they go up in value, and therefore we have that imbalance in this particular equation. So with the current model of just pure mobile, then they're losing money if people were to cash out and the prices were too high, right? Keep in mind we made multiple assumptions here. However, hear me out. Yes, I know the minimum cash out threshold at this point in time is 500 gems. But if I were to sell my NFT for 500, 1,000 gems, or 2,000 gems, the same principle applies. We only use the low number for easy math, and it just resonates better with everybody. If I were to sell the NFT for Mr. V for 1,000 gems, he would have to load $1,000 into the app, let's just say on mobile, because there's basically no difference for him when he loads gem through mobile or the web app. VeVe will only get 700, but they will have to pay more than that amount to me. So the same math applies. Secondly, this is only one type of transaction. It is very simple. An NFT can be sold and resold multiple times, and therefore VeVe will be able to get that 2.5% transaction fee multiple times, and that might help with the cash flow. But with the bear market that we're experiencing right now, that 2.5% is still pretty small. Last but not least, this might just be an old problem with VeVe, and I may not be facing it at the moment because we do have the web app. So that alleviates a lot of the, Apple or Google App Store burden for the company, because when users load gems through the web app, they don't have to pay that 30% fee to Apple or Google. But you need to remember that we went through a very long period of time without the web app, and especially we went through that insane January 2022 bull run. There was a lot of dirty gems that took place around that time as well. So these lose-lose transactions might not be happening as much as they did in the past, but some of them still happen today. And we thought this is a good example that we can use to explain why a combination of the web app and Omi to NFT can be that perfect solution. So again, they only have $210, but they have to pay out $245. And so that's why the web app was very, very helpful in solving that problem a little bit, because when people load gems through the web app, they don't have to go through Apple or Google, so they don't have to pay that 30% fee. So when Mr. V loads 300 gems, VeVe will probably get the majority of that. Maybe like they'll have to pay, I don't know, 2.5 to 5% or something like that, but they will get at least like 280 or even 290 instead of $210 in their bank account, right? So that works. And then in the interview that we did with David last year, that's why you recommended David to have some sort of rewards system to encourage collectors to buy gems using the web app, because it's beneficial for everybody, right? You suggested something to David?
Yeah, just like I use Google Play to make the payments on the app itself instead of using the web app, just because of convenience. But yeah, on there they were offering something crazy, like there would be like a promotion for like a week every 2 or 3 months, where I would get effectively a 10% kickback for however much I bought in gems. So if I bought $1,000 in gems, I would get $100 extra in credit. And so I was like, this is some amazing stuff, and why isn't VeVe doing this? And it's not my place to be overzealous and say that I know everything. But that's why I threw that recommendation to David, like, hey, I would like to see something that could beat that. And then I won't really hesitate to make the small effort to switch over to the web app.
Yeah, because we both know that having that will benefit VeVe the most, right? Because they don't have to. And so I think we have identified this problem with the 30% fee. And I don't think we know exactly how much it really is, but we're just gonna assume it's 30% in this particular case for this particular purpose of explaining you things that can happen in the background. But because VeVe is successful today, is because they were able to make the onboarding process and their product usage extremely simple, and that was through mobile, right? And in order to do that, they had to pay this crazy tax, and that's why, as a user, we are very, fortunate and privilege to be able to use the app and use this very great product in a very convenient and simple way. But going back to Omi to NFT, so I think David, after we suggested that, or you suggested that, he said that, if I remember correctly, like he didn't want to damage the relationship with Apple, right? Because they have an ongoing relationship. The app depends on it being on the Apple Store, and same thing to Google. So they didn't want to bypass that or something like that. Long story short, it would be better to do things on a web app, right? So now when we get to Omi to NFTs, when people pay for the NFTs, let's just say when you buy the My collectible on a secondary market for $300 worth of Omi, right? That's more of like almost like a peer-to-peer transaction. And I'm saying almost because we still have to pay some sort of fee. So that works better for everybody for two main reasons. First, it's still like VeVe doesn't have to pay that fee anymore, to that 30% tax to Apple or Google. And secondly, it will incentivize more crypto whales, or even doesn't have to be whales, like folks with crypto, they can be more comfortable using the Omi. And if they can incorporate some sort of Omi burning component, like a small percentage of Omi get burned through every transaction, that will make the token deflationary, and that will benefit the team, obviously, and Omi collectors, Omi investors as well. We want to explain to you different scenarios and why. So we think that Omi to NFT will benefit everybody. And then so in case you have a question of what about the fees, right? Because if you were to pay $300 worth of Omis to me, you still have to pay, or I have to pay, or one of us have to pay that 8%, that 8.5% to VeVe and the licensors, right? And I think you have a much better understanding of how this works to explain that why. And I'm not saying that they're doing it, but we're gonna consider different options. Like the first option that we're gonna talk about, and that we don't think they would do, but we want to talk about it anyways, is paying that fee. Is why paying that fee in Omi won't work. And I think you can explain that, Mr. V.
All right. So if we're going to be using Omi to pay for NFTs, and VeVe collects the 8.5% fee in Omi, and we're assuming that, and just to clarify, what you're asking is, we're assuming that VeVe does collect the 8.5% in Omi. Is that right?
Yes. So both of us agree that they won't, right? Because we have analyzed this and we think it won't work. It won't help anybody. So we're gonna say like we don't think they would do it.
Right.
What you will explain is why this method will not help anybody.
Got it.
Yeah.
All right. So let's say if VeVe does collect the 8.5% fee in Omi, that means that they're going to withhold 2.5% for themselves and have that on their balance sheet, while the other 6%, let's assume that they're going to pay their licensors using Omi. The big question is, will the licensors want to accept Omi and have Omi on their balance sheet? Or will VeVe have to convert the Omi to USD, US dollars, or whatever currency is accepted on their end? How are they going to get that money? Is VeVe, is the company going to sell the Omi and exchange it for the fiat that they need to pay the licensors? Or will they just stack Omi and use whatever fiat they have on hand to pay the licensors? Let's take a look at it on both sides. If they sell the Omi on whatever few exchanges exist, and we're looking at 6% of each transaction, the company has to make this call as to whether they're going to sell the Omi on throw it on the market on the spot, on the exchanges on the spot, weekly, monthly, annually. Your guess is as good as mine. And that, no matter which way you look at it, is adding to the sell pressure. And I don't think right now there's enough people to eat that up, to
absorb that.
To absorb that, right? So I kind of see it as being something similar to the secondary market, where if you see a couple people listing things for, let's use 100 gems, well, how are you going to be able to sell that quickly? You've got to undercut. And maybe you'll have some buyers, or maybe it's just going to sit there for a while. And then you might have some other people who are thinking, oh man, I got to sell my Omi first, or sell my stuff first. So they're going to undercut you. and it's going to be a race to the bottom. So that's one way of looking at it. The other way is, all right, let's assume that VeVe decides to withhold the Omi, the 6% that they would be collecting on behalf of the licensors, and they distribute the fiat that they have on their books to the licensors. That could be pretty good, because then they're stacking Omi and there's less available on the exchanges. You know, that could work on their favor. But we don't know where those funds are going to be allocated to. Is it going to be allocated to the business development wallet? Is it or where? You know, so that does bring up some questions, and I'm not going to try and answer any of that. I'm just going to leave that open-ended for our listeners, and hopefully he does address that at some point in time soon enough. So those are the two angles that I see it.
And also, like, the problem is, like, if they were to hold on to the 6% worth of Omi from all these secondary transactions, right, then they will have to decide when to sell it and how much to sell it, those kind of things. If they decide, okay, we're not going to time it, we're just going to sell it on a daily basis, then that will violate some rules, I'm sure, because using the blockchain data, we can look at the floors and kind of calculate it and get a pretty good accuracy to the amount of fees they get on the secondary market, and make that calculation and say, okay, today, you know, the total fees were, I don't know, like 10 million Omis. I'm just throwing out some random numbers. And so people will be able to make that calculation, and that would not be good, because that's not really insider information, but that's kind of like unknown information that can really affect the price in a big way. So they can hold on to the token and wait for it to appreciate and get more when they sell. Or if the token goes down in value, then they will lose money. And that's not good, right? Because now they have less money to pay themselves or Disney. So in case they decide not to hold and just sell the amount at the end of a business day. And so we can look at, you know, secondary transactions and see, so today the fees is approximately 10 million Omis. So there's going to be a huge 10 million Omi sale order on the market at some point in time. Then some people will use that to play the market. And that's not good for anybody. And the reason why we wanted to bring this up and explain it and provide all these contacts is because we don't think VeVe will use this method, because you have heard it and it hurts everybody. And so we just explained for you why it won't work and why we don't think they would do it. And that's why in the previous model of OUP, they used this method of having, I think it was like the seller paying the fees in gems, right? So if you were to buy my NFT for $300 worth of Omi, then you would have to have an amount that is
10%.
Okay, let's just round up like 10%, right?
Well, I think, and excuse me for interjecting, but I think I believe, don't quote me on this, I believe that the fee was 10% in gems.
Right. So whatever amount, 8.5 or 10%. Let's just round it up to 10%, right? For easy math. You, the seller, I will need to pay, or the buyer, I don't know exactly, but one of us will have to pay, we have to have 30 gems readily available to pay VeVe so they can pay themselves and the licensors. And then the rest of the amount can be done using Omi, right? And that might work. And that's why I think that's why they use it in the original like white paper of OUP or that they had, you know, last year or something like that. Maybe not the original white paper, but the past iteration of the program. And so that creates this inconvenience because one of us, we have to have gems available in our account because we need gems to pay that fee. So that's not very user friendly because hypothetically you want to do everything in one currency and you don't want to load Omi into your account and then buy gems. So I don't know how they will be doing it because at the moment they haven't announced that solution yet, but that's going to be very interesting. And whatever they announce, I hope that there's going to be some Omi burning component into it. For example, let's just say we still have to pay fees in gems. They can burn, and I'm just, saying what I'm thinking here, like they can burn 0.5% of the remaining Omi amount for every transaction. 0.5% or like 1% is not a whole lot, but with the amount of transactions that can take place on the secondary market in a day, in a week, that can add up over time. And that's going to slowly make Omi a deflationary token. It's going to remove a lot of tokens from the secondary amount. And that's going to help both the investors and the company. But at the same time, right, as the token appreciate, how will people spend it? Because you can hodl and your bag will just grow over time, or if you spend it and you see it goes up over time, then you kind of regret. So there's all these different ways of thinking about here and theorize it.
Yeah. I think another thing that may help alleviate the sell pressure would be what most people have been asking for, exchanges, because they have to give X amount of the token to an exchange for them to be able to list it, right? They need liquidity. And I'd imagine that maybe VeVe would, this is one take. What they could do is, as they start accruing this 6%, no, excuse me, the 2.5%, or even the 6% fee for the licensors, whatever amount that they have, once they have a big chunk of it available, they could start distributing it to the different exchanges that they hypothetically would use, and then as they go live with those tokens on those exchanges, with the token on those exchanges, then you would, again, hypothetically, have some buying going on, some buy pressure, which would be good, and remove the liquidity on those markets, on the market, and gradually have the price move up. How quickly or how slowly, I'm not going to touch.
Yeah.
How many exchanges, I wouldn't dare guess. But you have to look at it any which way that you can and try and play devil's advocate at times and try and get ahead of the curve. Think about all these different scenarios and be ready to pivot at any given moment, for good or for bad,
Yes. And so that's what we wanted to bring this up to you guys, is we want to tell you all the equations, all the calculations they have to make in the background. So first, it is compliant, and secondly, it benefits everybody, from the company to the licensors to the investors to the users, because I don't think they will ever have it perfectly. There's no such thing as like a perfect system, right? Somebody will benefit and somebody will face some inconvenience. Like, you may not have to sacrifice anything, but it's going to be like a small inconvenience in some sort of form. But this is going to be a very complex, business decision, and a whole lot of calculations that we have to make this a successful program. So yeah, there's a lot of things going on behind the scene that we don't know, but we can only, make these theories and scenarios to talk about.
And for what it's worth, anyone who's tuning in, you should check out dextools.io, D as in dog, EX tools.io, and you can use it as a resource to be able to look up the Omi token and see the distribution amongst the several different holders. When you click on the contract address, you'll be able to click on holders, and then you'll see exactly what percentages are distributed amongst the different exchanges and wallets. You'll see how many wallets there are that are holding the token, the percentage of the supply, and that should allow you to make a little bit more of an informed decision as to what works best for you and how risk averse you want to be.
Yeah, because the accumulation of tokens in a small number of wallets, or how they move, or how different wallets, because VeVe is such a small token at this point in time, and it's kind of condensed into like the top X number of wallets. Any movements from those wallets can really affect the price. So yeah, I do agree. It's a good practice to learn more about Omi in case you are into it.
Omi and any other token.
Yeah.
Like any other token that you may be investing in.
Yes. Long story short, I hope that was helpful for you in understanding the business model. Obviously, we made a lot of assumptions, but we think this is a very helpful conversation to have, because it is certainly very interesting the way the business works, and like the sacrifices they had to make make it very user friendly, very convenient, very simple for everybody to use. And that's why VeVe is I will say it's pretty successful today, considering the other competitors have either gone under or been acquired, right? But within that process, they had to make some sacrifices, and there are certain solutions that can, alleviate that pain point. For example, the web app or Omi to NFTs. But then, like, for each of those solutions, there's gonna be different problems they have to solve. So it's very interesting if you were to lift the curtain and look behind the scenes. So that's why I want to provide that here. Do you have anything to add to that?
I don't want to go down that rabbit hole.
Okay.
But I think that sheds enough light on it for this episode.
Okay. So the next topic I want to talk about, several small topic, is so last video we did this thing where we did a shout out to a comment from the previous video. And last week I did a shout out for A's rig move. And I said like how these guys like work on the ocean, like on oil drills and those kind of things. And he actually commented and he said that they were super happy to get the mention, and it really meant a lot for them, because apparently it's like a small community of guys somewhere on the ocean doing, I would say, pretty dangerous jobs, because I've seen all those videos and people doing it, and being in a very tough environment like that, listening to our content and following VeVe. So that means a lot to me and Mr. V as well, to have your support. So the comment I want to shout out this week is from Brandon. He said that our last video on like the Apple Vision Pro stuff, he said, very good insight and wise approaches, respect. Very short, but thank you, Brandon. And the two more shout out I want to have is one for Eric the Viking. He was one of our previous guests, and he just emailed me because I run the email address for our podcast. And I think he mentioned it in the group chat as well, that he filmed a ton of videos from Crypto XR because Eric went to the event and he shared with us. So we can have it in our video. So I'm going to put it somewhere on the screen. Looks like a very fun event. So thank you, Eric, for, being there and kind of like connect that with us through your videos. And so the second shout out, or the third shout out I want to have is for Michael Campa, because he sent us, each of us, one Todd McFarlane Batman, like real Batman statue, and VeVe light
that
up
was
logo.
the statue was from McFarlane Toys Digital, and man, the detailing on that,
yes,
it blew me away. Like I don't collect physical items, and that's like my first real superhero statue, and beautiful. It's really well done.
Yes,
so,
it is.
So,
it is huge cool too. I don't have any physical collectible, period. I've never collected anything, any physical collectible. So when I got the box, it was big, and all the details look amazing. And then I have it in my bedroom, and then the light looks great as well. I have it on pretty much 24/7 now, and I just get so much joy, like genuine joy, just looking at it. So I want to give a shout out to Stanley, I forgot his last name, who made these lights, and I think he's selling them on like Etsy or something like that. But looks amazing. Yeah, you have the same combo too, like the Todd statue and logo.
Yeah, I think I got you got the black one, and then I got the blue one.
Yeah.
And then the same light, and they look great. They look great. So I'm still trying my best to figure out how or what kind of display I'm gonna have for the things that I'm slowly getting gifted or buying myself, and I'm having a hard time figuring that out. So I hope I can come up with a solution quick.
Yeah, I've been thinking about it too. Each of us need a shelf to display all of those collectibles. And I also want to give a special shout out to Mr. 41. He was also a guest on the podcast. I think at this point he should have over 100 mint 41, because he got that number a couple months ago. So now he probably has way more than that. And he offered, I'm not going to say the amount, but a very good amount of Omi for us to give away to help us to grow the channel. And so Mr. V and I will come up with very creative and fun method to give that Omi amount away over the next couple months and quarter. And I said months and quarter because it is a huge amount of Omi, and you'll be very excited to learn more about it at some point in time. But we're gonna think of games that can get people engaged and do this kind of thing. So it's gonna be a lot of fun. So shout out to Mr. 41, to Michael Campa, to Eric, and to Brandon, who left a very positive comment, and for the rest of the community who have supported us. And the next topic I want to talk about is so last week was very eventful. Like we had so many things happening, but the one that caught my attention the most is this 90-second video of this artist and sculptor. His name is Eric Sosa. So VeVe posted this video of Eric, the behind the scene of Eric using some creative tools to create the digital statue of Juggernaut, which were dropped today. And I saw that video because somebody shared in our group like the link to the YouTube video. And so I think it was Mikhail. Yes, him. He shared a link to the YouTube video, and I immediately went up to YouTube and I saw it, and I love it so much. So what I did was, being a content creator, I realized that VeVe hasn't posted that video anywhere else except for YouTube. And if I were to bring the YouTube link to Twitter or Facebook, then my post would not get a lot of traction because those two platforms don't like YouTube links. So I downloaded it and share on Twitter and Facebook, and people love it because it was the first time for them to see that, hey, there is a real talented artist or sculptor working on this digital collectible that they are about to get, or that is gonna be sold on VeVe. And
can I add something?
Yeah,
I do want to give credit where it's due. And the guys over at Superstar Money, Rob and Joe, they did approach the same strategy of doing a behind the scenes with the creators of the digital collectibles. And they did get a hold of a company, and they had an extensive conversation that was super insightful. And it was one of the best episodes I've seen across all VeVe content.
Wow.
And unfortunately, they were asked to put down the link to the interview and to the discussion and the behind the scenes process. And granted, it was like a much longer. It wasn't 90 seconds. It was like probably 45 minutes or so. And we haven't seen anything since. And now VeVe is doing this months later. But I do want to acknowledge those guys for going out of their way to make that happen. And I think Corey from VeVe is trying to, I don't know, they're in talks with the guys, and I hope that they can make the link go live again. Because
so the video is not public anymore?
No, after like maybe 2 days or 3 days, they had to put it down, and it's such a shame that it's a real shame, because I mean, one, for all the effort and then recording it and setting up that discussion, that interview with the one of the many companies that VeVe works with to create the digital collectibles. It's a shame to see that go to waste. So I really hope that VeVe does allow them to be able to let that link go live again.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to get into like reasons why it was put down. For what it's worth, I do want to make sure that the community knows that Superstar Money, those guys did it first.
Yeah, maybe it has something to do with the client confidentiality agreement they had to sign or things like that. But shout out to Superstar Money. Their consistency is incredible. Like, I think they did a video every day for about, I can't remember the number, but maybe like 2 years or something like that. So shout out to them for putting all this effort, because you can tell they're super dedicated to making VeVe content. And I do hope that we can see that video again one day.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Yes, but that was a very cool video, because here's the thing. This drop, I wrote a tweet today, 4 hours. Well, this kind of drop was not going to sell out anyways, right? Like, people didn't really care much about this particular non-special FA characters. We only care about like the major ones, right? So drops like this did not get much attention, but just this 90-second video brought so much interest into it. Do I think it's going to help the future drops, get sold out with more videos? Probably not, because, some drops will never sell instantly, but it's going to help them to sell more, because it really brings the interest from everybody to a drop, because now people know that, okay, this might not be just about the return on investment. This is also about, and let's expand it here to like a piece of art or the artistic talent behind it. Like, it's real people creating this, rather than just, here, this is a piece of animated collectible, here you go, So I hope that more videos like this, and like when I looked at the comments, people really love it. And I want to read some here, actually, just a couple. So Sergio said that while I'm very impressed by this, might actually push me to buy it, knowing the thought process that went into making it. Jesse from Facebook said that, yes, love this. The artists need more shine, and the fans need to see the work that put into these collectibles to have more respect for the craft. Good job, VeVe. And I've seen so many people, I'll say 99% of the comments are very positive. So this works in helping the collectors and users like ourselves to see beyond the collectibles and to discover the aesthetic value of a statue instead of just, hey, is it gonna, it's gonna go over retail or things like that,
Yeah, I think it's kind of similar to sports, maybe, where when you start to like something, like when you enjoy watching an athlete or a team compete, you tend to follow the athletes, and that's where like background stories and like interviews and things of that nature start to get released, and more people draw attention to those individuals. And then once you get to see the behind the scenes stuff for those individuals on social media or in articles, then it brings you in, it brings those people into the spotlight even more, but it allows the public to make connections. And kudos to VeVe for taking the initiative to bring to the spotlight the artists, as well as highlighting and giving them those artists the platform to be able to speak their part on their craft. So that definitely is enjoyable. It mixes things up a little bit more, and we definitely need some more fresh content. So
Yeah,
it's good. It's a good thing.
Yeah, I know that there's a lot of efforts that go into this 90-second video, but again, it's just a 90-second video. I hope they can do at least a couple per month, maybe two. So one every other week is fine to me. Just to highlight more of it. And I'll say that that's about it. And so thank you guys for tuning in. If you have enjoyed our conversation, remember to subscribe, leave us a comment so that we can highlight your feedbacks in the next episode. We are also thinking about selling t-shirts to fund the podcast because there's a lot of efforts, there's a lot of investment that go into this, or the hosting, editing software, those kind of things. So if you're interested in getting t-shirts like this, let us know in the comment section. This one say VeVe Digital Collectible, and this is the Omi sign. And in the back, we have, I'm not sure if I can turn around.
It says World Tour.
Yep. These are all, well, this is one design I had a long time ago, but these are all the places that I went to in 2022. So if you like t-shirts like this, let us know that you like merch and we'll make it happen. Yeah, so that's it, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we hope to see you again next time. Bye, guys.